So what is the capital of private banking? Where are the best banks, the most sophisticated bankers, and where can you unlock the most creative financing tools to avoid taxes, cut expenses, and make as much money as humanly possible? Well, today I'm going to be exposing 3 cities in the private banking world that tick all of these boxes, places that you might want to consider for yourself, if you can get in. But there is a catch. All of these cities are in the same country, Switzerland. So in this video, I'm going to share the 3 Swiss private banking hubs, help you decide which one is right for you. I'm also going to share how much money you need to access each of them, and I'm going to help you decide whether or not you really need private banking in the first place. So let's dive right into our first city, Zurich. Now, Zurich is Switzerland's largest financial hub, but it's only the 2nd largest private banking hub in the country. I'll share the largest private banking hub with you soon. First, Zurich. It's located up north, so here you're dealing with Swiss Germans. And frankly, this is where you're going to find a lot of the big banks that people think of when they hear Swiss banking, Swiss private banking in particular. I'm talking about banks like UBS, Julius Baer, Credit Suisse, before they collapsed. And Zurich is also home to the Swiss National Bank, many private banks, family offices, independent asset managers, fund managers, and basically any financial services company that you can possibly imagine. So it's no surprise that Zurich is one of the most important financial centers in the world. And working here has become a rite of passage for many in the private banking space. Even members of our team have worked in Zurich. And it's a common place where we help clients access private banking. But while that's all great, the big question is, should you bank here? Well, let's look at the numbers. Now, while every bank and client is different, if you want to explore banking in Zurich, you should be looking to establish a relationship with at least 1 million Swiss francs. But if you're looking to open with larger Swiss private banks, there you're looking at deposits that can easily reach into 5 million francs and higher. Though I should add that there are very good options starting around 500,000. And a lot of the time, I actually like these lower deposit banks even more than the big flagship banks like UBS, because the smaller banks, even though they're also excellent, they can be more flexible in terms of deposits, fees, services, and our clients, they end up getting a more personalized service. We'll dig into these topics later when we look at whether you should actually be using private banks or not, and that's when I'm also going to dig into these other items like expected activities, transactions, quality, and costs. But right now, let's dig into our 2nd Swiss private banking hub, one that is lesser known and rarely discussed. And then after this city, I'm going to share the largest private banking hub in all of Switzerland, possibly in the world. But first, we're going to be talking about Lugano. Now, I might get some flack for this. I'm sure a lot of people watching that are familiar with Switzerland expected me to say Basel. But listen, Basel isn't a private banking hub. It's a large commercial banking hub that mostly caters to pharmaceutical companies. And the private banking that you can find in Basel typically caters to executives working in these pharma companies. So that is why Lugano made the cut. And in Lugano, you're going to find the headquarters of family-owned or controlled Swiss private banks, think PKB, Zaratini, along with offices for many of the major Swiss banks like UBS, EFG, and Julius Baer. Bottom line, if you're coming to Lugano to open an account, you're focusing on private banking and wealth management. Now, Lugano is in the Italian-speaking region of Switzerland, so bankers here typically cater to Italian clients, though many other clients can benefit from banking here as well, especially Europeans. But is Lugano the place that you should be looking for private banking? Well, if you're Italian, maybe. If you're not Italian, maybe not. And I only say that because in my experience, Zurich and the next city that I'm about to share with you in about 20 seconds are 2 of my favorite places for private banking, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But if you do decide you want to bank in Lugano, you're going to be looking at deposits starting around 500,000 Swiss francs, though most banks will be looking for 1 million Swiss francs to be deposited within the first 12 months. Of course, if you end up opening with one of the larger Swiss private banks, like those headquartered in Zurich, you're still looking at 5 million francs to get in. And that brings us to our final Swiss private banking hub, the largest of the 3 private banking hubs in all of Switzerland. But before I share the city with you, I do have a serious question that I'd like to ask. Do you like this kind of video, where I dig into banking in specific countries, even specific cities, share unique insights that no one else is talking about? Yes? No? Maybe? If yes, I do have a personal favor to ask of you. Can you hit that like button? When you do, it tells us that you like this type of video and that we should make more of them for you. And if you have any specific countries or even cities that you want me to dig into in future videos, you can just leave the name of the country or city below and we'll add those to the list of upcoming videos. And if you do leave a comment or like this video, don't forget to subscribe so you get alerted when we post our next video. Okay, back to Switzerland. Introducing our final Swiss private banking hub, for anyone who hasn't guessed, Geneva. The private banking capital of Switzerland and one of the global leaders in private banking and wealth management. Now, not surprisingly, Geneva is also one of the key places where Swiss banking secrecy first took root. It was basically a safe haven for many wealthy families, especially families from France. I'll save you the history lesson and just say that Swiss banks in Geneva hid the wealth of French families. Not exactly a strategy that works today, but, and this is important, there are still strategies that wealthy families from around the world can use to significantly reduce taxes and increase their wealth through Swiss private banks. I'm going to touch on these strategies in the next section of the video where I help you decide if private banking is the right choice for you. But first, let's finish talking about Geneva. Now, in case you haven't guessed, Geneva is in the French-speaking part of Switzerland, the southern west corner of the country. And here you'll find many heritage banks. These are family-owned banks that have been passed down through the generations, most of which are still family-owned, controlled, and even operated. Think banks like Pictet, Lombardodier, Mirabeau, Bordier, banks with hundreds of years of operating history. Of course, because of the importance of Geneva when it comes to private banking and wealth management, all the other major Swiss banks have offices here as well. Let's talk numbers. And here I want to take a bit of a different approach than the one we took when talking about Zurich and Lugano, because basically there's no minimum required at all, at least not usually. And while that might sound a little bit crazy, especially when talking about private banking, what I'm referring to is that everything is negotiable when it comes to Swiss private banking, including deposits. But that doesn't mean you should open a Swiss private bank account with zero deposit. That wouldn't be smart. Instead, in order for a private bank to make sense for you, you really need to be coming in with at least 500,000 francs, though you're better off if you can commit up to 1 million. Because at those levels, you're offsetting fees and generating a healthy return on your relationship with the bank. And that's why the deposits you should be looking at in Geneva are basically the same as those in Zurich and Lugano, starting around 500,000 on the low end if you're considering some of the boutique family-owned banks, and up to 5 million on the higher end with the larger Swiss private banks. Now, I will add, if you're coming in with a starting deposit of around 500,000 Swiss francs, most private banks, they will want to understand how you expect your deposit to grow over the coming years. And there are two reasons for this. First, because private banking is all about relationships, and they want to build a relationship that's going to last for years. And second, because increasing the balance you maintain with the bank is how the bank makes more money. But this video isn't for banks, it's for you. So what do you want? Are you looking to minimize taxes, increase your investment returns, or maybe you just want to bank in a stable country? And no matter what you're trying to achieve, is private banking really the best way for you to do it? That's the question we need to answer before you start applying for accounts in Switzerland, or even in Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, Monaco, or any other private banking hub. And that's exactly what I'm going to help you think through right now. But first, since you've made it this far in the video, if you've learned anything new or you just enjoy this type of content, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll get alerted when we post new videos on private banking topics just like this one. Okay, so how do you decide if private banking is right for you? Well, there are 7 big questions that we need to answer. And the first are pretty basic. How much are you ready to commit to a bank? If it's less than 500,000, you're not ready. Question 2 is, are you willing to let the bank manage a portion of your deposits? If the answer here is no, private banking could still be an option for you, but only if you can't open accounts elsewhere, like Premier accounts. And question 3, again, very basic, is can you meet the bank's other onboarding requirements? Now, the next set of questions get a bit more technical. Question 4 is how active do you want to be in managing your money? Question 5 is how much professional advice do you want to support your investment decisions? And question 6 is, are you looking to access any cross-border finance, structuring, or leverage to maximize the returns from your current portfolio? And lastly, question 7, which most people completely overlook, is can you access the specific services you want faster, cheaper, and with less long-term commitment from a different financial institution or solution? Now, your answers to these 7 questions are going to be completely different from the next person, and there are thousands of possible outcomes to the 7 questions I just mentioned above. So I'm not going to go into each of them here. Instead, I have something even better for you. Let our team of banking experts help you decide the right path, 100% free. All you need to do is fill out this form at the top of the description. It takes 2 minutes and we'll get back to you in less than 24 hours. So you don't waste time chasing banking options that don't make sense for you, your money, or your banking objectives. This is a complete no-brainer. It makes you better informed and costs you nothing. So click the link at the top of the description or go to globalbanks.com/apply. And then when you're done, come back here and watch this video so I can share one of the most interesting banking options I've seen in a while for foreign non-residents. In fact, they've completely changed the way that they handle foreign accounts, which means you can now have a bank account as a foreign non-resident